Temperature rise will bring widespread devastation and unprecedented extreme weather.
New coronavirus cases emerge across the country.
Obesity rates have more than doubled in kids.
Cape Town is running out of water.
Hi everyone, my name is Vikas Pota and welcome to this very special edition of T4TV. We call it that simply because we have a community that we built during the pandemic, which is a response to all the different types of challenges that teachers and schools around the world have faced as a way of helping them navigate what this new normal is. And one part of what we have done is launched a new set of prizes called the World's Best School Prizes. And I'd like to encourage you to join our prize movement, which is on Instagram, on Facebook, and Twitter. And you can use the account, which is @BestSchoolPrize. And our hashtag is Strong Schools. And so when we think about these prizes, what they really represent for me are ideas. And they're ideas that are actually sourced from the grassroots, from the schools themselves. And that's what the real power of prizes are, which is they're a mechanism. They're a mechanism to source incredible practice and expertise that exists in schools in all over the world, where I believe that, just incredible things happen. So wherever I used to travel to, and not just in this rich world, whenever I used to travel, I always used to go to a great school and I always used to meet a great teacher. And so that just underscores the fact that talent does exist everywhere. And what I saw in these schools, in these most beautiful places, was this incredibly inspiring practice and just incredibly inspiring expertise. And that is what we're trying to surface here through these prizes. So today, what we're focusing on is, in particular, we're trying to address how we win the World's Best School Prize for Environmental Action. You'll be aware that there are 5 prizes in total. And so last week, we had a session similarly on how to win the World's Best School Prize for Community Collaboration. And today it's about environmental action, and it comes hot off the heels of a huge event called COP26 in Glasgow, and where the world's governments came together to think about how they can mitigate and actually prepare for a world which has so much stress in it, and just trying to bring a focus on a change of behavior. And so when we think about schools and education, often what happens in these kind of fora is that schools and education are left behind, and communities just get on with what they have to discuss. But we have to accept that schools are enormously useful and powerful media to actually to make sure that we tackle the scourge and the adverse impacts of environmental change. And so when we think of it like that, these kind of practices fall under something called climate action or environmental action. And so the emphasis is on action. What my guest today will tell you is that there is no shortage of curricula that have references and actually resources that actually teach about climate change and that kind of thing. But where we lack is in actually empowering young people to take that step and empowering our schools to actually take that step and actually have some action that we embed in our systems. So I'm glad that today I have two friends of mine who have joined from different parts of the world to actually come and help us with it. The first is Christina Kwak. Christina, welcome to this special edition of T4TV. Christina, before you even say hello, I want to introduce you as the person who, along with Dr. Rebecca Winthrop, has probably done the most in the space of climate education. And you've written quite significant papers and done a lot of research in this space. And you're a non-resident fellow at the Brookings Institution, which is one of the most preeminent think tanks in the world on education. So welcome to this conversation. And the second person I'd like to bring on is someone who has become a buddy of mine, a friend of mine, and that is important that alongside Christina, who is a great thinker and someone who has really evangelized on a systems and global basis about the need for action. We have David Mitchell, who is the school principal of the famous Dunoon Grammar School. So welcome both, David and Christina. Thank you for taking part in this conversation.
Thank you.
For having us.
And so, I want to talk a little bit, Christina, with you about well, what I've said so far. You're part of our review committee that helped us put together the criteria, the rubrics, the assessment frameworks. Do you want to kind of introduce the prize and what we're trying to achieve?
Yeah, sure. So the World's Best School Prize on Environmental Action includes schools that are modeling ways to educate students not just about climate change and environmental issues, but as you said earlier, Vikas, ways that we can proactively take action to address the climate crisis and environmental degradation. So this includes at the most basic level actions to protect the future of our planet, its biodiversity, and its natural resources. But at its most ambitious level, this might include actions to help catalyze broader systems change that gets at the underlying root causes of the climate crisis and aims to improve both the health of the planet and also people's well-being, and especially those people in communities that are disproportionately impacted by climate change. So I think, yeah, go ahead, go for it.
No, I totally agree with you. But why do you think it's not happening?
Well, I think that there are several roadblocks that are preventing schools, the education system, education leaderships from really getting into this area. I think among those roadblocks are competing priorities in an already cramped educational curricula and educational priorities. I think also on a global level, on a global scale, when it comes to global leadership and global politics, there's also a lack of radical vision for what the role of education can do and how it can really leverage transformative systems change. And there are so many other roadblocks as well, but I think these are two primary pieces that are really inhibiting greater and deeper action by the education sector.
And David, do you have a reaction to what Christina said? Is it from your experience of being a school leader in a rich part of the world, where you have all the resources possible? Can you tell me a little bit about, well, does that chime with you?
I absolutely agree with Christina. I think there are so many factors that schools have to take into consideration when designing their curriculum, looking at attainment and looking at qualifications that our young people are supposed to get and are looked to achieve. And I think one of the things that we've done in our school is to try and make learning real, try to make it, give the young people that opportunity to go out and actually do as they're learning. And I think that's been part of our success, that we have been able to provide that real learning opportunity for young people, not just within the environment, but across our whole school curriculum. And I think sometimes schools maybe need to take a risk and get out and do that, as well as, following the general curriculum. So I absolutely agree with what Christina has said there.
Well, thank you. And for those of you who I know that some of us are watching live, but many of you will watch this as a recorded piece. And so what I want to provide is an opportunity for you to understand how, an opportunity to understand the criterion that we're applying in general, as well as in specific to this particular prize. So in general, what we've said is that regardless of which of the 5 prizes you're applying for, there are five areas that you've got to be able to tick off. So the first one is really simple. Can your school demonstrate a commitment to excellence? This is the world's best school prize for that reason. We want to see a commitment to excellence. The second is around, has your school developed trailblazing practices, processes, and pedagogy school-wide, right? And that's what we want to see. This is quite an important point where this isn't about just celebrating a one-off. This is about actually have you embedded practices, processes, and again, not just in a particular thing that you do, but or school-wide. The second, obviously, this is a point that we all forget. Actually, you have to have evidence. Like there's a lot of great storytellers, but this has to be underpinned by quantitative and qualitative evidence to support your application. And I'm going to be asking David later on what that actually means in a school context. Then what we're looking at is, can the school demonstrate the impact on the experience and life chances of its students? I mean, that is pretty critical. And so this isn't just an academic conversation about environmental action. This isn't just about we created a process. Yeah, but to what end? And so the end is we've got to show the impact on the experience and life chances of your students. And then I would say the most important general criterion that we have is, what can other schools learn from you? Because the point of the prizes is that we're surfacing incredible expertise from schools around the world so that others can learn from you. So if Danoon, for example, and David is going to talk about his school in a second and how they approach it, it's great that they're so great, but the idea is that we lift the boat for everyone. And so that's what these general criteria are. David, do you want to respond to anything I've said there?
No, I think having been involved in World Education Week for 2 years now, what you learn from other schools is massive, and taking on board some of these amazing things that happen across the globe, not just in our own countries, and taking that on board as you're developing things for yourself. So absolutely, this is a great opportunity for schools to showcase their talents, showcase what they're doing in their school. And if you don't win, well, do you know what? We're still learning from each other, and we're still having that opportunity to share our stories with each other. So it's a really exciting opportunity for schools across the globe.
Actually, David, you raise a very good point, which is, yes, of course, we have a cash sum that 5 schools will win. But actually, the prize, my friends, is that you join this global learning community of just exemplar schools around the world. And I think there's something really powerful about that, where we can create change by creating these public goods that can be used by other schools. And so I want to encourage you, even if you don't think you're going to win, but you're good at one thing, just apply for the prizes, because through that we'll crowdsource your expertise and you'll be contributing massively. So now what I want to do is I want to go into the specific criteria for the Environmental Action Prize. And so these fall, there are 4 specific criteria. And I'll state at the outset that you don't have to be able to meet all 4. Even if in one of them your school is incredible, you should apply. Because even if you're mastering at one thing, that is an enormously powerful story we can tell and can build off. And so make sure that it's not necessarily just about you've got to tick the box on all 4 criteria. Even if it's one, please do make the effort and apply. So the first one is really about teaching and learning. And Christina, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, sure. So teaching and learning gets at the heart of ensuring that students have access to quality climate change education, or environmental education, or sustainability education, and that education builds students' appreciation of the natural world as well as our place as humans within it. But then beyond that knowledge, it's also about understanding how your school builds their knowledge about the environment and the ecosystem, about climate change, about its scientific causes, its systemic drivers and unequal impacts, and over to the solutions, over to the action, over to the empowerment and the agency that's really required to tackle this collective action, right? And I think the teaching and learning also means that we can't forget to ensure that teachers and school leadership and school staff also have the opportunity to learn about climate change and its impacts on the community and how to engage in the tough and the technical conversations around climate change and climate justice, both in the classroom and beyond that. I think that, this also means that we have to consider that broader breadth of green skills that empowers students with the ability and enhances their capacity to engage in climate action in different ways. And so this breadth of green skills can include, technical STEM skills. It can include care work and compassion work that's necessary for working sustainably. It includes generic green skills like critical thinking, problem solving, working with uncertainty, empathy. That's really necessary to alter and change our behaviors to more pro-environmental behaviors. And then also the transformative capacities like political agency, collective action, systems thinking, strategic thinking, integrative thinking, all of these that are necessary to build the mindsets and the consciousness for transforming our social and economic structures. So teaching and learning is at the heart of this, knowledge to action nexus.
So we have, when you go onto our website and you say you want to apply for the prizes, you will be asked, you'll be sent a pack. And in that pack, under each of these criterion that we're showing, there are some guiding questions. So in this particular criterion regarding teaching and learning, there are 4 guiding questions. So the first one is, does the school develop teaching and learning that is eco-friendly, contextualized to your community, and is student-centered? So in brackets, hands-on learning, resulting in advocacy, action, and empowerment for students. The second, does the school have a project and problem-based pedagogy for environmental sustainability that addresses the issue in a systematic way? Third, does the school have green learning programs that develop learning from nature walks, etc., that develop an appreciation for nature and the environment? And the fourth is, does the school have green learning programs that develop knowledge about our ecosystems, the environment, and climate change, the green skills that are necessary for living and working sustainably, and mindsets oriented towards sustaining planetary balance? David, what if you were a teacher and you were a school principal? If you're filling out the form for this particular criterion, what would you say in Danoon's case?
I think first and foremost, climate action or environmental action has to play a major part in your strategic plan. As a school, it's just as important as any other aspect of the curriculum. And for us at Danoon Grammar School, that has been the case for a number of years. Not just within our curriculum, but within our eco group that's set up, which is run by our senior pupils, totally focused in on climate action. We also have young enterprise groups, social enterprising groups who do upcycling projects to again show a number of our subject areas, such as food technology, for example, have been working on climate education for a number of years and looking at the global food chain supplies, looking at food prices and the nutritional well-being, etc. And we also have in our school a learning centre which is for young people with severe and complex learning needs. They have a garden where they grow their own vegetables, their own green I suppose, their own green area, if you like, and they've now just put up a polytunnel. So again, they're learning through real, proper activity. And again, I go back to that right there and just now. And for a school curriculum to work, it does have to be real for the young people, and it's all about them. If they're learning when they're having great fun.
David, there's a comment that's come up, which I won't put on the screen, but there's a suggestion that this kind of category is mainly suited for schools in the rich world. What do you think about that?
I don't think so. Every single school across the globe can affect environmental action and have an impact on environmental action. So it's important that everybody feels that they can apply for this prize.
Could I jump in there, Vikas?
Please.
Yeah, because I think it's important that the actions taken by schools responds to the unique challenges posed by climate change, as those challenges and impacts are felt by communities and the surrounding communities. And so we know that climate change and its causes, its drivers are experienced differently by different communities around the world. And so if your school is located in a high emitting country, like where I am situated in the United States, or where David's situated, or in a low emitting country, your school's environmental action will have different emphasis on different kinds of action, whether it's mitigation or it's adaptation activities, or if it's transition or transformation activities. If your school is experiencing increased frequency of extreme weather events like cyclones and hurricanes as a result of climate change, or natural hazards like landslides and flooding because of exacerbated and erratic sea level rise, it's going to be very different than a school that's, emitting carbon because of its reliance on fossil fuels and reliance on public, on cars and fossil fuels to drive the energy. So I think that a critical part of this particular prize is being able to communicate and articulate how that environmental action is addressing climate change in the unique way that it's being experienced by communities.
Thanks, Christina. And David, I come to you with the second criteria because I know that you kind of knock the ball out of the field in this one, which is about home, school, and community engagement. Links between the school to the broader community, enhancing the range of support and opportunities available to all. Do you want to speak about this particular criterion and what it means for a school and how they tell this story?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Partnerships with home, partnerships with the community and stakeholders is key to having an effective school curriculum. And I know I keep going back to this real and relevant learning context. To make that work in a school, you have to have partners that believe in your vision. As a statement states that we're a school at the heart of our community where we strive together to achieve excellence. And our community, we've done a lot of work with the community, engaging with partners, having business meetings with business partners to talk about what is the need for young people in our area, as they move into employment. So to make the curriculum work is absolutely key to having a proper and good partnerships. Linking it into the prize, there are a number of local groups in our area, EnviroKern, Inspire and Ellen, who work very closely with Beautiful Scotland about keeping areas clean, keeping areas, doing beach cleans, doing very simple things, being out in the community doing litter picks and working closely with these. Now, these are very small things, but make such a big difference to your local community. And it also, it allows the young people to be educated on, for example, litter. So when we're doing a litter pick, we collect all the litter around the school area, and we show how many bags we've actually collected, how many plastic bottles we've picked up on the beach. And we're seeing it on the news all the time about the wildlife in the sea, swallowing bottles, plastic bottles, what's been washed in offshore. It is really, really important that to make young people aware of the environment, that we get them out doing things. And the young people are the people that are going to make that difference. They're the people that are going to make the difference. So if they're seeing it, they're the people that are going to spread that word. They are our future, but they're also, as we said when we were speaking at COP, they are our here and now, and we should be learning from them. And again, you look at what happened at COP this year with all of the young people doing their march. That was so powerful, and we should be taking a lead from our young people about how we address the climate issue.
And so on this criterion in particular, there are three guiding questions that we ask, which are, firstly, does your school collaborate with community, with academia, with NGOs, with business, with other schools, with parents, and others on prototyping student projects to solve local problems? The second is, does a school have community partnership programs that such as local cafeteria programs run by students buying from local producers, recycling programs, creating art with local artists, etc. And the third is, does the school's approach to sustainability have an impact on the conservation of natural resources by the community? So our third criterion, and Christina, I'd love you to weigh in on this, is about collaborative leadership and practice.
Yeah, so this one I think really ties in well with the previous one as well. And it really helps us begin to shift from thinking about environmental action and schools' role around the individual behavioral change to really thinking about the collective action and to explore how, decision making and ecological awareness and management and all of these things run horizontally as well as much as it does in the individual, and as well as need to run up and down vertically within the school system. So I think that this criteria really helps us understand whether and how, as you pointed out earlier, because how sustainability principles are integrated and embedded throughout the education that the school provides, right? Throughout the school system, its structures, its practices, its procurement and its supply chains and so on, right? So it's really thinking about that embedded nature of environmental action and climate action.
So here there are 4 guiding questions, and David, I'm going to come to you on this in terms of for your specific school, how this plays out. And so the 4 guiding questions are, does your school collaborate with all education stakeholders and the greater community for the purpose of achieving environmental sustainability in an inclusive and equitable way? Secondly, does the school publish, share, and advocate via social media, local media, traditional media, their students' projects for environmental sustainability? Thirdly, does school governance integrate environmental sustainability and green learning in their leadership, management, and decision-making? And fourth, does the school integrate and implement eco-friendly practices into daily school life? Now, David, I want to ask you the third question, which is, does school governance integrate environmental sustainability and green learning in their leadership, management, and decision-making? I mean, let's take that as an example and take your school to be the case study. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, our governance, if you like, is our education authority as well as our parent council, if you like. So within the education department, there is a member of the central education team who have a remit regarding climate change and environmental action, who regularly give out information on activities and on things that are happening across the schools across Argyll and Bute, as well as across Scotland and further afield. So they are really taking a lead on that with us and trying to drive that within our own school, if you like, and about me being a leader, if you like, trying to drive that along with my parent council. We have young people that attend our parent council meetings and share the action that they're taking. One of our 6-year committees is on climate change, it's a RECO group, totally focused in on it. And they would come and share that information with the parent council, with the senior leadership team, and come up with ideas. So for example, a couple of years ago, they decided to do, we have 4 houses in our school, which we have house competitions throughout the year. And one of the competitions that they came up with was a recycling competition. And they built recycling units from old pallets and put them into the school forum where we have our lunch and breaks. And the young people then had to put all their recycling bits into these 4 pallets, one for each house. And we awarded prizes for I suppose the person, the house that had the most recycling at the end of each week, and that we also presented some points, and that led on to the overall award at the end of the year. So it can be quite fun as well, but it's really important. Christina says about leadership. As leaders, I think we need to take risks more. I think we need to get out and just say, yes, we need to, there's an end point, there's an output, but within that, we need to take the young people's needs into consideration and take risks as much as we can, or as reasonable risks as much as we can, to ensure we're addressing a number of these issues.
Thank you, David. And the last criterion that we have, Christina, is around campus and infrastructure. So if you could please tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so this one helps us also think about coming full circle when it comes to thinking about the whole school approach to climate action. And it's probably the easiest and the most basic level of environmental action that we would hope schools engage with. So this could, be like ensuring that the school's built environment and other aspects of its physical campus, its supporting infrastructure like its utilities are all playing an active role in environmental action. And this, covers again actions that can mitigate against further environmental destruction and further greenhouse gas emissions. But then for those schools in low emitting country contexts, these environmental actions might include making the school campus and its infrastructure more climate resilient, better able to bounce back from environmental shocks that are worsened by climate change, like installing solar powered water pumps in places that are prone to drought, or planting shade trees near school buildings to alleviate energy costs during heat waves. So, this is really helping us, again, to come full circle to think about kind of our physical and built environment and our infrastructure, and really ensuring that, that these actions aren't in a vacuum, and circling back into the curriculum as potential entry points for more learning and hands-on learning.
So in here, we have 4 guiding questions for this criterion. So the first is, does your school have green initiatives within the school, such as water or energy saving initiatives, recycling programs, recycle art for advocacy, carbon footprint initiatives, growing and eating local food produced there, or others? The second is, does your school develop, reorganize, design, advocate, build, and partner with the community for living conditions in the form of eco-villages, eco-municipalities, and sustainable cities? Number 3, does the school reappraise their involvement with the economic sectors, so permaculture, green building, sustainable agriculture, or work practices such as sustainable architecture? And fourthly, does the school utilize, develop, and prototype new technologies in its own right? And so, David, from a practical basis, from a school's basis, how would you answer this question? Or how would you meet this criteria?
I think, again, just looking at it, we would be looking at some of the events again that we had been running throughout the last 9 years that I've been here as head teacher, if you like. But we have had walk to work or walk to school days. Again, simple things. A lot of these, the part of the infrastructure within schools don't need to be complicated. It could be simple events. We've had walk to work. We've got solar panels installed on our school roof as well. And then at the front, it's actually telling us the amount of energy that we are actually producing. We've got a screen at the front of the waiting area that's telling us in there. I think within new technology, one of the things that, again, we spoke about at COP this year was that we've created a new game changer course, which has got an area of looking at climate action, if you like, and we've been working with our friends at Apps for Good on a new pilot, which is looking at climate action. So we are looking at new technology in there, and our youngest young people in our school are taking a lead on that, and are going to support us as we try to make those changes. So again, the infrastructure doesn't need to be really complicated. I also feel, again, Christine, you were talking about areas and grounds within the school. See if your school doesn't have grounds that you can utilise. That's when you get out into the community. You make links with your partners, make links with the community. There might be allotments, there might be areas within, or green areas like parks. Why can't schools get out into the community and make a difference out there, and show the rest of their the kind of community, the elders in the community or whatever, how they want to make a difference? So it doesn't just have to take place on school grounds.
And so, friends, I mean, we've tried to bring together this opportunity so that we can go into a lot more detail on this one particular prize. Because if there was ever a meta theme that exists in society today, it's about this environmental challenge that we face. And our contribution in education is to make sure that we empower our young people to take action. It's not that they don't want to do it. It's not that they don't feel energized by it. It's not that there isn't enough in the curriculum about it. It's about how do we get them to actually take that first step? And how do we then create a lifetime of habits in them that help us actually mitigate all the adverse impacts that we see around climate? And so that's what the focus of this prize is. Now, if, again, I go through what I said at the beginning, was that whilst it may seem overwhelming to you as a prize, and there's so much here, and we've gone through 4 criteria, we've gone through guiding questions, it's very important that I say this at the end again, which is even if it was on one of the criteria, you can actually demonstrate excellence, I think you should apply for these prizes. Simply because we recognize that for one school to be able to do all of this stuff would be very unusual, actually, and very unique. And we'd love for that to be the case. But we know that we have to be realistic in this regard as well. And so it's a goal that, yes, all schools, this becomes a standard of sorts, that all schools head in that direction. But we also recognize that actually you may do one thing really well, and that could help and inspire other schools also do the same. So that's the whole purpose of these prizes. And so by applying for these prizes, you put yourself out there, you join our global learning community, and also you may have the opportunity to win $50,000 for your school. David, what would you do with that $50,000?
Oh, masses. First and foremost, we just want to apply for this, and maybe more than one category, because I think, Vikas, what you've said there is that get people out, get schools sharing their journeys, and sharing what they're doing. If we were lucky enough to win the £50,000, or $50,000, there is so much a school of ours that we could do with it, regarding not just with the Environmental Action Prize, but within the community partnerships, building up things. For example, could we, one of the things that we have a problem with is transporting our young people to areas within the community. Could we get a green bus? There's so many different things that we could look at that money and say, oh my goodness, this would be fantastic, as a lot of schools across the globe could. So my advice is go for it. Just go for it.
Thank you so much, David. And Christina, any final words of encouragement to schools or school leaders that are watching this?
Yeah, I think remembering how climate change is uniquely experienced in communities all over the world. And even though the examples that we might have brought up in this segment today might not fit your context, there will be hundreds of ways to take environmental action and take action on climate change that I think your school is uniquely positioned to articulate, tell the story about, and demonstrate impact around. So I hope that you will feel encouraged by the energy of your students to take action and really apply, as Vikas has said, even if you don't fit all of the criteria, but if you can demonstrate that you're taking action to advance that link between knowledge and action in some way, please do apply.
Well, my friends, thank you so much for participating in this particular session. I want to thank David and Christina for making the time to be with us here today. And if you're watching this in the future, we do hope that your school, this particular recording has been of use to you as you come to fill in your application form. If not, please do email us, do contact us on social media. We're there to support you in your journey. So please make sure that don't feel overwhelmed in any sense, but do remember that the enormity of the challenge in front of us is such that we all have to put our shoulders to the wheel and make sure that we apply. So on that note, thank you all very much for joining. And I look forward to next week for our next such How to Win the World's Best School Prize session, which will be, if I'm not mistaken, on innovation. And so thank you all and goodbye. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, Vikas. Bye.